So if any of you paid attention to my video last week, you know that I am painting an army. Okay, and it's the first army that I've ever painted, and I'm starting with Warmachine, and then hopefully eventually I will move on to my Warhammer Salamanders army that I have, and I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get this whole army painting thing done. And you might be thinking there's not much to it, you just gotta paint, but I'm learning that there's a lot more to it than I thought there was. So let's talk about it. So first things first, when I started this project, it started because of this miniature. This is Plugger, and I've done a lot of work on Plugger over the weeks. I have kit bashed him, I gave him a unique pose, I built up his base a little bit to make it look like he's jumping down into a trench. I did some stuff with this model, and I've been waiting for a long time to paint it because I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I started painting it last week, and that's kind of what the video is trying to find the paint scheme that I want. And realistically, I saw a picture online and I loved how it looked because it had that ghost feel, and these guys are kind of like military ghosts and whatnot, so I kind of wanted to stick with that. And so I started painting, and I'm not going to go over everything I did last week. If you want to see that, you can check out the video right here. And it's been a huge learning experience because I've only ever painted one model at a time. You know, I get out my wet palette, I get the colors I need, I make a mess of it, I use tiny little bits of paint for each little thing. And now I'm learning that army painting, sure, you can do it that way if you have 1,000 hours of free time, but you need to learn a way to do things in bulk. Okay, and I've been doing airbrushing, I've been doing base coating, you know, multiple models at the same time, trying to figure things out. And one of the things that I decided I wanted to do is an oil wash. I've seen it before, sounded like a great idea. So I started with a couple more miniatures. I finished the one, I have kind of my gold standard that I want, and now I'm trying to find a way to do it faster because that took hours and I don't have hours for each miniature. And so I took these three models that I had previously airbrushed lights and darks, zenithals, and then I went over the top of them and just hit them with a light airbrushing of a base coat of a blue-gray that I've kind of mixed up on my own. And I honestly don't know if I'm doing this the best way. I don't. But that's what I'm trying to find out. So, you know, I decided to I wanted them to start up really white on top, get a little darker in the middle, and then be the darkest on the bottom. And so just using paints that I had already used for my original model, I went over these guys and hit them up with base coats really quick. And I learned while I was doing Plugger that it's a really good idea before you do an oil wash to, you know, put a varnish on your miniature to protect it, to give it that coating of protection. And then I was struck with my first disaster of the day. And that is, I didn't wait long enough for the varnish to dry. I didn't even give it a full hour, you know, and you should give it some time to dry and seal everything in. And then I hit it with my oil wash. And if you don't know what an oil wash is, it's basically oil paints mixed with mineral spirits. Okay, which sounds weird because mineral spirits are like a paint stripper, and then you have oil paints. Okay, and you mix them together. And I'm not going to give you the ratios because, I mean, you can mix it as thick or as clear as you want. It just depends on the level of coating that you want to put on the miniatures. And as you can see from what I did, some got a lot, some got a little bit. But the thing you have to keep in mind with this is that mineral spirits are a paint thinner. Okay, they're going to thin out the paints that are on the model. And if that varnish isn't really well set, it's going to cause you problems. Because after you put on the coating, after you put on that oil wash, you let it sit for 15-20 minutes, just for a little bit to let it get it nice and settled in there. And then you take a cotton swab or a Q-tip and you start rubbing off all of the areas where you don't want it to be basically black or brown or whatever color you decided to make with your wash. And ideally, it comes out looking grimdark, looking like this, like it's dirty, it's rusted, it's used, because I mean, these guys have been fighting nonstop for weeks and weeks and weeks, you know. They're not pristine, they're not clean, they are in the battle, in the fray, and that's what I wanted. Okay, and so when I took it off of Plugger, it came off perfect because I varnished him and then I came back and did the other thing a day later, so I had tons of time to dry out. But with these 3 models that I was trying to do today, they didn't have that time. They didn't have that time, and so overall, for the most part, it still worked. But there were definitely areas where I went down through the varnish, through the base coat that I had done, through the airbrushing that I had done, down to the primer. Let me give you a little hint. If you're trying to paint something fast, having to repaint everything multiple times is definitely not what you want to do. So keep that in mind if you want to do an oil wash. They look amazing. They look incredible. I mean, even though I screwed up, I was able to save them. Okay? And start painting them. And I really like how they've turned out. And I guess kind of one of the things I want you to take away from this is that you're going to screw up, learn from those mistakes so you don't do them again. And having a project like this where not every model is your favorite model in the universe is a great way to start doing that. I like these models. I like them a lot and I think they look great. Okay, Plugger was my favorite of the set, but there are others. And I've waited specifically because there are warcasters, which are like your leaders of your army, that I want to do a really, really good job on. And I'm leaving those until I have the kinks ironed out because I want to do these quick. I want to do them well. I'm not using speed paints or anything like that. I want these to not all look exactly the same. I want them to all have unique life about them, but you can tell that they're all from the same unit. And so that's what I'm struggling to do. And overall, this went faster. You know, I got these 3 units. I've only finished 2 of them so far this week, but I'll finish the 3rd one easily, you know, within an hour or so. And if I can bust out 3 miniatures in 2.5 hours, I feel like I'm moving okay. Sure, I'm not going to paint, you know, 100 units or anything like that, but I'm going to paint 40. And I'm going to paint 40 in, honestly, probably a few months. Okay? But for an army, I think that's okay. And if I buckle down and I did a 24-hour, you know, painting stream, I could do most of an army easily. And that's with, you still have to break it up, right? And if you were painting them all at the same time, you wouldn't have to break them up. You just move from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And can I tell you, I don't think there is anything that sounds more boring to me that I've ever thought of doing in my entire life. Yeah, I want to paint it. Yeah, I like painting them. But painting the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again is why people never finish their armies. So I'm trying to find a way to do it that works for me, keeps me entertained, keeps me interested, and overall makes the process not a thing to dread, but a thing to look forward to. And so far, that's what it is for me, especially because I am learning all these different things as I'm doing it, and I am trying to narrow down what approach I like the most, which I think we all have to do. You know, sure, you can watch some YouTuber and think his idea is the best idea, but if you don't try all the other ones, how are you going to know, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, if you have any suggestions, any ideas for making this process faster that you enjoy, and again, I'm not trying to do 40 at one time. I'm looking at doing 5 a week. Because for me, I feel like that's pretty simple. But I'm not going to be painting for an hour and a half every day. I'm looking to do 5 a week in probably about 3 hours time. So if you got any suggestions, drop them in the comments below, because I want to hear them. And I would think a lot of other people would too. Okay, here at Pulsegate Games, we're all about helping your experience playing tabletop games, creating tabletop games, painting tabletop games be better than it is right now. And be, honestly, more fun. Something that you look forward to and want to pull other people into. So, if that interests you, please like, subscribe, and like I said, comment below. Let me know what you're feeling. Let me know what your thoughts are about army painting. Is it worth it? Have you done it? How many armies have you done it for? And what did you learn along that process? That's the kind of stuff that I'm really looking to know right now. And oil washes. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Have you ruined things with them? So far, I haven't ruined anything, and I feel like I learned my lesson. Let's hope that's the case for the rest of these. But as always, thank you for checking us out today. And remember, don't spend so much time building your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.